What's up, everybody? This is Ricardo Rodriguez.
And Matthew Messick.
And this is
the Profits Over Wages podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Profits Over Wages podcast, where we do weekly interviews with highly successful business owners and entrepreneurs. We discuss life, business, and entrepreneurship to bring forward the lessons learned from success and failure, and most importantly, have fun while doing it. On episode 33 of the podcast, we sit down with Rosario Terracciano, CEO and co-founder of Clickinvest. He has been in the real estate industry since 2003 and has represented investors, rehabbers, builders, banks, and institutions in more than 2,500 transactions valued at more than $300 million. Rosario was the number one broker in Chicago for 2013 and ranked fourth nationally by the Wall Street Journal. He has built a career in working with investors to stabilize distressed properties. On this episode, Rosario tells us the biggest lessons he's learned in business over the years, how he was able to do 604 transactions in 1 year, and win number one broker in Chicago for 2013. We also talk about doubling down on technology and how he was able to replace the work of 60 employees with just 6, how Rosario has lost it all multiple times and how that has led him to where he's at today, and he gives us advice on how to deal with the tough times, and much, much more. Man, this has got to be one of my favorite episodes. His journey really embodies the motto Matt and I have had in our business for years, whatever it takes. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. Let's go. And we're live. Well, thank you, man, for giving us the time and being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking me.
And I've actually been thinking about having you in the podcast for a little while. I know I think I saw one of you do a presentation when you first started resurrecting real estate.
Yeah.
About 2-3 years ago at somebody's flip. I think this was like before we actually started doing a lot of deals.
Okay.
And it was kind of like your story was like super interesting, and like because you've been in real estate for a while in some aspect or another, and it was like just seeing like the journey that you've been through over the last 10 years or so, like it was really inspiring. And I've been wanting to talk to you for a bit. So for those people who are not familiar with who you are, if you can kind of just tell us who you are and what you do right now.
Yep, absolutely. So my name is Rosario Terracciano. I am one of the co-founders of Clickinvest. Clickinvest, basically what we do is we find deals for investors. It's not a software program. We like to be considered an acquisition platform, which means our clients come to us and they're struggling to find deals right now because inventory is tight. So we're a trusted source. We go through thousands of properties a day to send out the top 20 to 30 that we feel as a team are the best opportunities in the market today. So every day we restart and start again. Okay, what are the best 20 to 30 deals in the market today? And then we have in-house appraisers that identify those deals, vet those deals, and then we send them out to our clients.
How wide does that span? Like, if you're talking about thousands of deals a day.
Yeah, so about a 60-mile radius from downtown Chicago. So we cover the 6 or 7 counties, in Illinois. We don't shoot too far out. We like to stay where we feel there's enough investor activity. Our clients are regular people that are just trying to build a business in real estate. So they need to do volume. It's the guy doing 3 deals a year that wants to get up to 6 deals a year, or the investor that's doing 10 deals a year and wants to get to 20. So they leverage us for deal flow. So we put enough opportunities in their face every day for them to just submit as many offers as they want. So
how did you get into this? Like, when did Clickinvest start, and what were you doing before that?
So Clickinvest really was Resurrecting Real Estate rebranded, or is Resurrecting Real Estate rebranded. So Resurrecting Real Estate started in 2009. And then 2 years ago, I partnered with the guy that ran Invitation Homes, if you know who those guys are.
It sounds familiar.
So they're backed by Blackstone. They bought 50,000 homes nationally. And the guy that you met in the other room, Jeff, so he ran their operations in Illinois, Minnesota. So he bought 4,200 homes for them. So nice. I'm the little guy in the room. I did 2,800 transactions. He's done 4,200. So between the two of us, 7,000 transactions.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And how long?
So he did that in 2 years. I did 2,800 in 4 or 5.
Well, I mean, they have deep deep pockets. So it's like,
No. Hey, represent.
I'm saying black
it.
tone.
Oh yeah,
Black
black
Yeah,
tone.
black
Yeah,
tone.
yeah. I
As
thought
far
you
as-
meant me. I'm
He's like,
no.
what?
no, as far as like
He's like, don't put
clients,
that
you know,
out there.
'cause he did the acquisitions for them. So I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you pretty much have a blank check.
Yeah, that everybody hears about the client with unlimited funds, and we all joke about him like it's a myth that doesn't exist.
It's like
And
a
even-
unicorn.
Yeah, and even when they approach me, they're like, "Oh, unlimited funds." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I've been hearing that for 10 years." So, but they actually were that client.
Didn't they buy the Sarah Tower too?
They did last year, the year
So
before,
That's
something
just
like that.
as close as you can get to unlimited funds.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, if we can kind of just go back
Go
to like
way
way
back.
back.
Okay.
Like, how did you end up in real estate, and if you did anything before that, or if you've
Yeah.
always been in sort of real estate?
So I 2003 I got in real estate. Prior to that, I was trading Eurodollar futures, NASDAQ futures, S&P futures. So I was trading at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I was trading overnight futures at night, and then during the day clerking because I wasn't making any money. And honestly, I was just in a really dark place, like just spiritually, mentally, whatever. Pretty depressed. And every day it was like, I'm going out to make this money, to go out and party, to make money, to go back out and party. And I'm like, this stinks, man. Like, what kind of if this is life, I didn't want to live it. So I honestly started thinking really bad thoughts, and ended up going to a bookstore and got a book on positive thinking, because I'm like, if I don't get positive, I'm not going to make it.
Right.
And there was a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And that book actually led me to the Bible. And from there, I quit doing a lot of the stuff I was doing that just clouded my brain for years. And then I knew I had to get out of the market where I was at. And I'm an entrepreneur, I guess, at heart. And I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to be in the stock market, I got to get into real estate. That's the only other,
Yeah.
as a 22-year-old, I'm like, well,
Around what time was this? What year?
2003.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm
So
like,
things were starting to heat up.
yeah. Yeah, I know I look like I'm 10, but I was 22.
That's good.
People
man.
are they're like,
good
how
for
long
you.
you been doing this? I'm like, 15 years. And they're like, yeah, right.
It's like
No.
you weren't doing this in grade school. What are you talking
Yeah, yeah. It was right after kindergarten, so I decided to get out. So I read a book called A Millionaire Mentor by Russ Whitney. And you're gonna see a theme in this is books, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big reader. I wasn't before, but
Same.
after that switch, I definitely became a big reader. So, Millionaire Mentor basically talked about wholesaling and looking for hard money. So, found a hard money lender, and then went out, started wholesaling, and then connected with an REO broker that was doing a ton of volume at the time. And for the next 2 years, I was a wholesaler. So from 2003 to 2005, going to the daily center every day. I took a different approach, though. So I didn't do mailers. I went after properties that were in demo court, and then I would pull the files because all of it's public record.
Yeah.
So I would go to Daily Center, pull the files, find the homeowner, contact them, and then try to put together a deal. And my first deal, I made $2,500. I thought I was,
Nice.
Hey man, there's money out of thin air.
yes. But then the guy that got it from me, like, flipped out of it for me like 25 or 30 grand. So I was like, oh, but
He
yeah,
flipped
I
it or
agree.
wholesaled it again?
I think he wholesaled it out. I don't know. It was funny, but
We've had that happen.
Yeah, where
like
you're
we wholesale. Not to sidetrack,
Yeah,
but
no,
like just
no.
like a quick sidebar. We wholesaled this deal a few years ago, and we wholesale it. We were trying to do the guy a favor. Like we got really friendly and everything, and we made 10 grand on a wholesale deal. He went, put it on the MLS, and made 20 grand.
yeah.
Like a month later, I'm like, this.
We had offers for us to make 20 grand, but we're like, oh, we already verbally agreed with this guy, so we'll give him the price. that
Just
we said.
naive.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But you learn. So I got the itch, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I quit my job at the Merc because I told myself as soon as I see it's real, I'm gonna quit.
Yeah.
And I mean, $2,500. That was a month at the Merc, working every day, and I made that on one deal. I'm like, oh wow, this is real. So I wholesaled for the next couple of years, met a ton of legit investors, met a guy by the name of Frank Montreux, you guys know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to I don't want to say wholesale, but broker deals for Frank and his investors all the time.
Nice.
And in 2005, got the itch, started investing for myself. Got married the same year. 2007, had our oldest son, lost everything in 2008. Real estate wise, I got up to 8 rentals, raised money from family and friends, had about 10 flips going on the south side, all 2 flats. So I mean, I floored it, right? I thought I knew what I was doing. So I'm like, wow, I can do this.
Where on the south side?
Inglewood, Roseland, South Shore. So those were the areas that I could afford back then.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know this now because everybody's got short-term memory. But in 2005 and 2006, I was fighting for deals in Roseland, single-family frame houses for $65,000 as is.
That's crazy.
That you can buy now for $6,500.
Yeah, we just had a 3-unit rental in Inglewood for the last 3 years that we just sold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're actually talking about this on the way here. I'm so glad the house is gone, dude.
I was going
just
pretty.
like, I can't anymore.
It was going pretty good for like 2 years, and then like the wheels fell off. It was like time to.
And when we mean the wheels fell off, like all 4 wheels fell off.
All 4.
Not just
you had
one.
no more.
That's so
You had no
scary.
wheels left. Yeah. So I did that, and then market just turned, and I was not ready for it, and couldn't sell the properties anymore. We had properties under contract to sell, and nobody could get a loan. And then I was robbing Peter to pay Paul the whole time, and I ran out of funds, and then just got smoked. Went from Lakeshore Drive. We were literally living on Lakeshore Drive, and then moved into a small apartment in Harwood Heights. And here I am, looking at my wife and kid, like, my gosh, like I promised this woman the world, and here we are. So that was 2008. Very hard to get out of bed every day. But
Right.
thank God I'm blessed with a good woman, and she just kept encouraging me and pushing me, and faith definitely had a big part of it as well. So went into property preservation, if you guys know what that is.
Just winterizing homes?
Yeah, so the same REO brokers I used to buy from, now I'm calling, and can I do your trash outs? It's pretty humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing all the dirty work on the south side, and then one of my mentors approached me and was like, man, you know so much about this game, so much about REO, why don't you just become an REO broker? And I'm like, how? And he goes, well, I have all these bank contacts, and they're all looking for good brokers that know what they're doing, so why don't you launch a brokerage? So we launched Resurrecting Real Estate in 2009, and it just exploded from there.
Yes, because everyone was getting back into it a little
Yeah.
after that, and everything's on sale now.
Yeah.
Nice.
How many deals did you do as an REO broker?
So 2009 was our first year. We opened February 2009, sold 150 homes our first year. Literally 0 to 150 homes in 10 months. And then the next year we sold 250. The next year 350. It was a straight rocket.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
Like, how did you scale that? Like, how did that come? Like, from 0 to
Yeah.
100.
yeah, had no idea what I was doing. Literally.
Because if you had just gotten your license, right?
I got my license in 2005.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, like, if you get your license, you can't really be like a managing broker immediately, and you got
Yeah.
a partner and.
So I got my license in 2005, and then in 2009 when we opened, there was a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Gill. He was my first partner, and he had his managing broker's license, and I'm like, dude, open an office, So it was Resurrecting Real Estate was my brainchild, but he was the first broker, and then I got my managing broker's license after that.
Now, as far, because I think this is the question that Matt's kind of alluding to.
How did I get there?
Right. No, like, if it's just you and another guy.
Yeah.
Like, how did you scale from 0 to 150 deals on, like, the brokerage side? Like, as far as hiring brokers, and because it's a lot of work, man.
Yeah, and most of those, so it was W-2 employees. So I had one bookkeeper. Literally, that was it. I hired it was my IT guy's wife. And he's like, oh, she's good in accounting. I'm like, great, I need help. So brought her on. And because of my preservation experience, thank God I had guys out in the field. And when you're starting out with REO, you don't make any money. Like, all these, one thing you're going to get with me is there's no fluff, right?
Right.
You go online, everybody's selling a book, being an REO broker, just like they're selling a book about everything, right? To be an REO broker is not a glorious job. There's no money in it. The margins are very minimal. And if you make mistakes, you make no money.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, REO brokers make all the money. So anyways, I had field ops. And the first 6 months, you're not really selling anything. You got to manage the properties, because a lot of these, when they assign you the property, it's occupied. So you're a property manager for the first several months until they vacate, and then you can do your broker price opinion, and then you can list it. So thankfully, the way the cards fell, or the chips fell, was I was strong on preservation because I had guys in the field, and they were going out doing field inspections and maintenance and all that stuff. But to really answer your question, working 90 to 100 hours a week, me doing everything, start to finish, even going out rekeying properties when I had to, like going out drilling locks out myself, putting new lock sets on, sticking postings on the door, dealing with evictions, cash for keys, all that stuff.
Did you ever have people there when you went and drilled the locks out? Because
I
that's
think with property, I went to drill
Yeah.
the lock out, and the guy comes out and pushes me down the stairs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a wuss, so after the first few times,
6'1",
Yeah,
like 2.
yeah.
I don't know, whatever you.
This
how
was
much
like
you weigh.
6'4" though.
if there's a
He's a
strong
big-
wind, I'm going down.
He's a big dude. and
Yeah,
then
he is.
We went and did that, and this guy was like 6'4", 280. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I'm a wuss. I mean, so the first few times of doing it, I'm like, okay, if I got to start, I'm smacking the mic around. I'm having flashbacks. If I got to start subbing stuff out, the preservation was going to be the first thing. Like, I don't want to knock on the door. I have a little kid. I'm married. I'll have somebody else knock on the door.
Right.
Who's bigger than me.
Yeah.
So that was the first part we started subbing out, and then literally I did everything wrong. I mean, we needed to staff up, and I just started hiring bodies, not even the right people. Like, I'm like, hey, you got any friends? Like anybody, I'd ask everybody, you got a friend, or do you have somebody that can type fast, like for BPOs or whatever? And they'd come in. There was never like more than one interview. You walked in, I'm like, okay, they seem like they have a brain. You're hired. Like, when can you start? So we went from one employee to, at our peak, we had close to 60 people between internal and external operations.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because you said you went from 150 to
250 to 350. And then our 2013, we sold 640 homes in 1 year. So, I mean, we were first in Chicago, ranked 4th nationally by Wall Street Journal. And that's when we had our peak, most amount of people.
That's a lot of deals, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of deals. Yeah.
But as far as like, because I don't know anything about the REO brokerage side. Like, do they pay you a management fee when they just?
No.
So
That's
what
I tell people all the time. It's a bum job. Like the Ryan Smiths of the world that are out there, and Koya Smith and them. There's a small group that have been doing it a long time. They know what they're doing. They know how to manage cost. A lot of people that get into REO, they don't understand that it's all a cost game. And you live and die by your reimbursements. So you become the property manager for the bank, but you don't get paid to do it. But you have to front all the money.
Right.
It's nuts.
For utilities, anything they have to do with the villages, cash for keys. Sometimes I had to cut a check for $5,000 to front for the bank, and then you get reimbursed 6 months later if you do all your docs right.
So, I mean, if you're doing all these deals, where was that money coming from? Was that coming from prior deals, or your own money, or did you raise money?
So a lot of it was self-funded. Good question initially. So the guy that helped me get started, it was a lot of loans from him. I'm like, dude, you put me in this mess. Like, I need money. So he gave me a line, and I drew off him. And then as properties started to close, I'd paid him back. But yeah, I mean, at one point we'd probably have like 150 grand outstanding, just covering costs for the bank. So, I mean, and when you sell hundreds of properties a year, you're making money, but a good chunk of that's going right towards reimbursement.
Do you still get the quote unquote typical like commission, like when you sell like the?
No, and that's the other kicker. Like, instead of the 2.5% or 3%, some of them are good. There are a few banks that would give you 2.5% to 3%, but a lot of them, if they were coming through a servicer, it's like a broker, right? So they're like, hey,
They
give you
bought the debt.
Well, that, and they'll say, hey, we'll assign you 20 assets a month, but we get, 3/4 of a point on every commission. So now you're really making 1.75, and you're managing that sucker for 12 months. And a lot of these properties at the time were selling for $100 grand or less. So you're making, $7, whatever it ended up being.
I'm just doing the math.
Yeah. So I'll give you the number. Because I went through this Goldman Sachs program. It's called 10,000 Small Businesses. That pretty much breaks down your business. And I was making $1,700 on average commission per REO. My cost was $1,400. So I was making $300. That's why every time somebody's like, you crushed it. I go, yeah, I sold a lot of properties. The volume didn't equal dollars.
Yeah, your volume is way higher, but your margins are way lower.
Yeah. Which leads to one of the big lessons of my life, margin.
Yeah.
Top line means nothing. You know, you could have all the fluff in the world. Like, I remember getting an award for top broker, right? And everybody, I mean, the whole goal is to be announced last, you know, at the Chicago Association Realtors
car
Award.
event?
Yeah, because that means you're the big dog and you sold more than everybody else. So I was working so hard to get there, and then finally I'm announced last. And I'm walking off stage, and everybody's like, you crushed it, you killed it, you this. And I'm like, really? Where's it at?
How many times did you get top broker?
Just that one.
Just that one time?
Yeah.
The
Where was
fourth
that?
year?
Yeah,
Third year?
so third year, fourth year, yeah.
That's crazy because it's like the banks that put themselves in that position, and then they just kind of push it off to somebody else to kind of deal with the bullshit that they got themselves into in the
Yeah.
first place.
And you become, I mean, really, you become their employee. And then what buckles a lot of guys is you don't want to fire them because you're handcuffed to them.
Yeah.
They become your bank, right? Because you're fronting all the money for them, and if you don't stay with them and they don't reimburse you, you're out.
Yeah, because if you want to cut it off at some point, you still have all these like outstanding properties
And
that
they
you got to
could
get
say,
paid off
"Whoop."
from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that? Because at what point did that stop, or do you still do REOs with the bank?
Great question. So, so we're chugging along, kept hiring, staffing up like crazy. Still knew nothing about margin. I've always been a deal guy, so I had this crazy memory. I don't know. I guess I'm too old now. My memory's not there, but I knew every address. Like, the banks loved us because we were on top of it, and we took pride in what we did. And I tried to keep things as clean as possible, right? So I preach to these guys every day: honesty, integrity, transparency. That's how we roll. And if I can't go to sleep at night with peace, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I need peace of mind, or I don't want to do it. I don't care about the buck. So we didn't buy any of our own properties. We didn't do our own preservation. I thought one of the big reasons I got into REO was like, oh, I got my own construction company. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then 2 months in, one of the asset managers was like, hey, why am I getting invoices from Resurrecting Properties? Because there's real estate and then properties was the construction company. I go, I'm doing all the preservation work. They go, read your contract. You can't do that. I'm like, for real? So now I got to sub it out to somebody else. So I couldn't make money on construction. I couldn't buy any of my own properties. I couldn't buy any of the other brokers' properties because with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you can't buy any of their product. So I went through the best years in real estate without being able to buy a property. Think about that.
Sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really bad. So
And
anyways,
you knew all the great deals out there, and you couldn't do anything.
every deal. So where was I going with this? So we took off. We were growing every year, and then 2012 is when we got approached by Invitation Homes, which is backed by Blackstone. So they came into the market and said, hey, we're going to buy thousands of properties, and we're looking for the best brokers in the market. So they started with 25 brokers. It was just an all-out rumble. I mean, literally nobody slept, because they're like, okay, we're starting with 25 brokers, and then we're going to funnel it down to the top 5. So we were working literally 22, 23 hours a day.
Just
like
Thunderdome style. Just
what?
Thunderdome.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because they said there's going to be this window, and we're going to buy, and then when the window closes, it's over. So as soon as they bought the first deal through us, we're like, oh my gosh, it funded, they're real. So we floored it, staffed up even more, and then they funneled it down to 5, and then we ended up being the top broker of the 5 that were left.
Awesome.
But again, so it was like this perfect storm. We had a ton of REO going, then the acquisition. So I mean, it's literally the perfect storm. But not understanding business, I was always the deal guy and a salesperson. I was an operations guy. So I didn't pay attention to margins. I mean, I should have made, no joke, I should have been operating at a 50 to 60% margin because the opportunity was there. I ended up falling at like an 8 to 10% margin.
Wow.
And I mean, my nut was $125,000 a month, $125,000 to $150,000 a month just to cover overhead and expenses. So we had 80 closings in 1 month. It was all this money flying around.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward and it's like, what did it go towards?
Yeah. So like, what was that? Like, what were you missing that you didn't know until after? Like,
So technology was a big piece. I'm sure you guys have read E-Myth,
yeah.
right?
Both the business one and the real estate one.
Yeah.
With what is it, Thin Marrow? I think
No,
it is.
no,
like
no.
the real estate
The
one.
Keller. I thought it was with. Was the real estate one with Keller, or was it
I only read
or Remax?
the original one.
I can't remember.
Because I know there's the E-Myth,
I think it was
like
Keller.
the E-Myth, like the original one, Michael
Yeah,
Gerber.
Michael
and then there's
Gerber.
the one that I think is the Millionaire, the E-Myth, the real estate edition. I think that one's got some Thin Marrow on it, but
Really?
I could probably be. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, but I read so many books too, they just like all blend in together.
You're like, yeah, it's-
I've read it somewhere.
It sounds right. I mean, so we started making money, and then I let it get to my head.
What was Stan Marrow and Paul?
See,
Wow,
damn.
Fact check.
I'm clapping.
So this is what
Very
sucks right now.
impressive.
You could be fact checked all the time. It's like before Google,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you could say
bullshit.
whatever the fuck you want. Nobody would fact check you.
Oh wait, did I say I sold 640 homes in 1 year?
Look it up.
Yeah, look it up. So anyways, I'm like, okay, so we're going along. I had I'm gonna be real. I had a lot of young people working for me, right? And
Do you mean idiots? Or what are you trying to say?
immature,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There are a lot of mature ones, but I was a leader. I wasn't an operator. So the people I put in charge of operations, right? I let them do whatever they wanted. I didn't really rain down on it, and we didn't leverage technology really. I mean, we had this giant assembly line, which was very, very expensive. So we had a few analysts that were finding deals, and then they would plug it in. We'd had people doing data entry, and then other people creating contracts and whatever. It was just a lot of waste. Where if I would have put the time into building systems out, I would have had half the people. You know, like you see in our office now, there's 1, 2, 4 people in the office. We've got one other person remote and one person's out. So we replaced 60 people with 6.
So just a lot of inefficiencies and not
Leveraging technology. Yeah. So what Clickinvest was born from was that pain, because in 2014, Invitation Homes stopped buying. And to go back to your initial question about the banks, right, the REOs, well, I was making all this money on the acquisition side, dealing with this big hedge fund, and I'm like, I don't want to do that REO stuff anymore. Like, I'm making so much money doing this, and it's so easy compared to all that nonsense over there. So I literally fired Fannie Mae. I'm like, I'm good. They're like, once you are out, you're out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with that, no problem. So I started scaling out of REO, and then Invitation Homes calls up and says, hey, thanks, we're good. We hit our order. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah, caught in the middle.
So now I'm caught in the middle, but the one constant was my payroll of $125,000 a month.
Right.
So now over the next 4 months, 5 months, I go from 60 people down to 8. You know, and it was a bloodbath. It was, you talk about getting kicked in the face. And all this is during the Chicago Association of Realtors award show as well. So everybody's like, you killed it. So monetarily,
Like I just killed
didn't.
my staff too.
Yeah. It was pretty
crazy.
Yeah. So I guess it's like 4 or 5 times I've lost everything. So Joe Mueller at one of Andrew Holmes' events says, man, you got a high tolerance for pain. I'm like, man, I don't want to experience it.
It just happens.
Yeah, I'm good at making
But
mistakes.
if you think
But you
about
keep
it,
bouncing back, though.
yeah, and you also wouldn't be like where you're at now, where you have 6 people doing the work worth of,
Yeah.
60 people worth.
Yeah, so very few regrets. There are regrets, but very few, because in those, through those trials and tribulations, that's where you learn. And for me personally, spiritually and all that, that's where my faith is stretched. And I'm like, okay, where am I going to go with this? And how's this going to turn out? And it's literally putting your head down, having faith, and just taking the day that you have and focusing on that and not worrying about tomorrow. You can't. Like, you got to deal with today and only today, and then deal with tomorrow when it comes.
The crazy thing is, like, all these, because, I've had the same things happen, and, just obviously different scales, but it's like everything that always happens, like, somehow it ends up being a part of a puzzle for something that's going to happen later on. It's so weird.
Yeah.
right? Like it's just such a weird experience that you're at the time when something bad happens, you're like, fuck, like I should have done this. But then 6 months down the line, it's like, oh, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and here's what's crazy, because I'm a big believer in writing down your goals and visualizing your goals and doing all that. So we had, back when we were doing this, I said we're going to hit 500 closings, right? And then that year we did 501. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, right? And I'm telling my team, and then I started writing down, we're going to go national. We're going to do this. We're going to work with hedge funds, and we're going to become a hedge fund one day and all this stuff, right? So my vision was right, but the foundation wasn't right, okay? Well, fast forward, so all this starts happening. And I'm like, okay, we learned so much from working with Wall Street. We learned so much with working from, the institutional side investors and all this stuff. And I'm like, that could not have been a waste. Mm-hmm. Like I can't live with that. Like I've got to trust that this was all for a purpose, a greater purpose, right? So when I started letting people go, I dove heavily into the tech side of things. And I'm like, we're going to automate 80% of what was getting done before. And we're going to eliminate all that waste. And that's really where Clickinvest was born, right? So now I'm going out. This is 2015, 2016. I'm like, okay, now I got to go get capital. I got to raise capital. I got to do this. I got to do that. Well, the guy next door, Jeff, ends up reaching out to me because he left Invitation Homes in 2016. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, man, I need an operator. Like I got all the vision in the world. I need somebody that can execute this sucker because I suck at execution.
And that goes back to the E-Myth, right? Yeah. Like you're more like the entrepreneur,
yes,
part of the puzzle.
I got, folders upon folders of ideas for the next 10 years. Like, but I need somebody that can actually execute. And I've got a business coach, and he just kept saying, dude, like your kryptonite is sitting at the computer. He's like, you're Superman when you're out there, when you're playing in Vision World. And he goes, you got 100 ideas a minute. All you need is one to work. Well, now I had one. And I'm like, man, but how are we going to execute? So Jeff reaches out to me, and we stayed in contact. And he's like, hey, I just left Invitation Homes. Let's catch up. So we sit down, and he's like, what are you up to? And I tell him. And he's like, there's no way you built that. And I'm like, dude, we did. And he's like, you realize if we had this, when back in Invitation Homes day when we were buying, we wouldn't have needed all you brokers. We could have done it all in-house. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you didn't build it. I'm like, dude, I got it. And he's like, I want to see it. So I showed it to him, and he's like, oh my gosh. He goes, dude, I can take this to a whole nother level. You don't understand what we can do with this thing. And I'm like, well, I can't afford you. And he's like, well, let me prove to you what I can do with it. And then if you're in agreement, we'll partner up. I'm like, okay, done. Yeah, because I could only take it so far. And I'm a big believer, and I'd rather have a smaller piece of a big pie than all of nothing. Yeah. So he came on in 2016, and we rebranded from Resurrecting Clickinvest last year. And God willing, by August 1st, we're going to open in Florida. And then the goal by beginning of 2019 is to be in multiple states. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I said we were going to be this, multi-state brokerage, and now we're getting approached too from hedge funds that are like, we're seeing what you guys are doing.
Can I just buy you out? Is that what you guys are going for?
I don't, you know what? We went into this with, let's build a great business and then see what happens from there. If, God willing, there's opportunity for us to expedite growth, great. We love what we're doing. But yeah, at the end of the day, you build a business to sell a business. And if you don't sell it, you should still operate it as a great business. So, yeah.
And then how are you expanding to like different states? Are you like, because you're essentially a brokerage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's getting licensed in Florida.
This is what is it? What's that word?
Reciprocity.
Yeah. I have.
Oh. See, I know my share card does.
Yeah. He knows his authors.
English is my second language, man. I have such a hard time with this like long words with like a lot of P's and C's. Dude, like in between.
This guy, for the first 2 years I knew him, maybe 3, he kept calling it realtor. You know those people that call it realtor? Like,
hey,
I'm like, that's not how you pronounce it, man.
I tell my mom, you can speak, because anytime she's like self-conscious of what she's saying, I'm like, you can speak 3 languages. I could speak 1.5. Like,
yeah, that's all I tell them all the time. Like, I could start speaking Spanish right now. You have no idea what I'm saying.
I can understand. Go ahead.
No. No, he's just saying that because like we've been working together for what, 5-6 years,
something like that.
So technically, when I first met him, I had only been in the United States for like 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
So it's like, but anyway, what were we saying?
What were we talking about?
Oh,
states. No, you said,
Yeah,
how are we
yeah.
going to, so how are we going to grow it? Yeah.
Right.
Reciprocity.
Yeah.
Reciprocity. There you
So he'll get licensed in Florida. I mean, our goal is for us to have our own shop in a few states and then start licensing it out in other states and go from there.
go. So like a franchise model
yeah.
type thing.
Yeah,
and then
'cause
you
really-
sell the franchise.
Yeah, because really what we built here was the hub. So this is corporate, right? I mean, we've got, what you don't see here is a software development team of 8 guys. So they're out of the office. So we have that. So this is really corporate. And then that room, one of our guys is out, but each market only needs a couple guys because we're running the rest from here. So they've got a ton of bandwidth.
So now that we're at Clickinvest, can you kind of talk about how it's structured?
Yeah. So
people get an idea of like behind the scenes on how everything works.
absolutely. So when we were working with the big hedge funds, we were literally analyzing hundreds of deals a day, sending out 250 offers a week, and it was a big numbers game. And this is wild too. So when I used to trade back at the Merc, so high frequency trading was coming in. Okay, so everything was about automation and algorithms and all this stuff, and you're like, what the heck? And it was so hard to keep up. Well, my thought was we were submitting 250 offers a week, and we weren't walking any of these properties. And people are like, how could you buy without walking? Well, if you do enough of these, you have a general idea on how much it's going to spend, roughly.
Quick
Yeah,
sidebar.
we
We're
kinda do-
closing
Yeah.
on. I think we're closing on a property today and another one tomorrow. And before we submitted the offer, we hadn't walked through either one of them.
You hadn't walked.
I still haven't
Yeah.
seen one of them, but I know the numbers work.
Wow, so we're not nuts.
No, yeah, it happens at some point.
it
'cause,
happens.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's speed, right? Well, if you're focusing on, and one of the big things Jeff brought up when he came on, he said, because we were doing a lot of big value add stuff, like stuff that you guys do, you can't really automate that because there's so many variables in that type of project, right?
Yeah.
But what he said was, man, let's focus on the 300 or 400K and under market, which is more cookie cutter.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with floor plans. You're not dealing with architects. You know, I mean, every house is 1,000 to 1,600 square feet. If it's got a basement, great. Like you can automate a lot of the underwriting for that.
Also, that's where a lot more of your customers are at because that's where most people are.
Yeah, so we totally left the higher end market and focused on the lower tier market, the mid to low, or the low to mid area or sector of the market. And basically what we set out to do was, okay, let's underwrite these deals using these algorithms that we built. So we took what the analysts were doing and we said, okay, let's create these filters. I'm going to dumb it down because every time I start going with this, people are like, what is coming out of your mouth? So we created these giant filters, okay? These filters go through thousands of properties a day. Just on the MLS, there's 35,000 detached single-family homes on the market today in our market area.
In Chicagoland?
In the Chicagoland
Well, within
market.
the 60 miles. that you
Within the
said you
60
go.
miles. So ours, and everybody's like, there's no deals on the MLS. If you think there's no deals and there's 35,000 properties and there's no deals in there,
You know what that tells me? That tells me that they're not looking at properties.
exactly. So I'm like, okay, every time they're like, there's no deals on the MLS, I'm like, then don't look. We're fine. Like
They're
we're-
already not looking if they're
Yeah.
not finding.
Exactly. So our system filters through all those 35,000 properties every single day, gets refreshed every minute, and it spits out the top deals based on our algorithms, right? So we took what the analysts were looking for, and we just plugged that in. We created the formulas for it, and it would find, like, think of Google. You type in what kind of property you're looking for, and it would pop up, right?
So it's like an MLS search on steroids.
Correct. With, like, think of Redfin for investors, because every deal that comes out has a rehab number, has an ARV, has a return on investment, a net ROI, not gross, has a net estimated net profit. Okay, so your cash profit, all that's baked in. So roughly on a daily basis, it funnels down from thousands of properties a day down to the top 150 to 200 based on our algorithms. And then we have 2 in-house appraisers, one's here, one's in the city, that does a final on every single one of those and sends out 30 to 40 a day. So the system filters it down to 150, and then the appraisers out of the 150 will send out 30 to 40 a day.
So I think we were talking about this on the way here. So I can see like the algorithm figuring out, say, like the purchase, the offer price or the ARV.
Yep.
But how do you determine like the rehab number from that?
Which is like the biggest variable. That's where you either make or lose your money.
Absolutely. So Jeff doing 4,200 transactions, me doing 2,800 transactions. Between the two of us have done over 100,000 valuations. Okay, because to get to that many deals, you have to look at a lot more. It's all formulas. So basically what we've done is based on a certain set, let's just use a few examples. So like year built, square footage, is there a garage, is there not a garage, is there a basement, is there not a basement? When you're dealing with the mid to low level areas, you can get pretty close based on the project type. So the system will pin a rehab number on it, but then the appraiser does the final and adjusts based on the pictures and based on the feedback. Okay. So all we're asking for is to get us within range, and then the appraiser will refine it based on what they're seeing.
Are you assuming that they're all good rehabs?
Nope.
Or that, like the first assumption, which is like the algorithm, like what is
we'll
the
assume
algorithm?
Worst case.
That's assuming worst case, so it's always gut rehab.
Correct.
Okay.
And then based on what they're seeing, then we'll adjust on there. Because it's not, otherwise you basically eliminate too many properties, right?
Right.
So it'll have a certain minimum ROI that we're looking for, and then the appraiser will adjust based on what they're seeing with pictures and feedback.
I could see that. Like a lot of things, like if you're assuming worst case, if it has no garage, then that's 15 grand. If you have to finish the basement, then another 15 or 20 grand, depending on the square footage and the footprint of the house. So it makes sense to me.
Well, and the goal really is it's deal flow, right? Because the average investor today, so I'll give you an example. Ron, one of our clients, the guy's done over 500 projects, okay? When we met a little over 2 years ago, he said he was on the verge of quitting because he's just like, he was used to doing 20 to 30 deals a year, and he's like, it's just goofy right now. Everybody's an investor again. Yeah. Everybody's watching these reality TV shows, and everybody's an investor again. He goes, it's just too competitive. And he wasn't filling orders. And then we started working with him, and he's like, this is crazy. Because instead of spending 20 to 30 hours a week, which the average investor does just on acquisitions, now we're giving them 20 to 30 opportunities a day. They just need to click submit offer. Every deal that gets sent to their inbox has an ARV, a rehab estimate, suggested offer amount, all the comps included, and all they have to do is click submit offer. In their profile, we have their proof of funds, we have their articles of organization if they're an LLC. So everything is baked in, and we have their initials and signature. So when you click submit offer, on our side creates the contract, e-stamps it with their initials and signature, creates the email to the wholesaler or to the seller, whoever we got it from, listing broker, whatever, attaches all their documents, creates a contract, and sends it off, all within 10 seconds of being reviewed.
Wow.
So
you don't have to sign a DocuSign.
No dot loop, no DocuSign. When you sign up, terms and conditions goes through all that, and you're authorizing the system to e-stamp.
That's how you go from 60 employees to 6 by automating everything.
We had 2 people full time before just drafting 30 contracts a day. Now one person can pump out 200 to 300 offers in a day if they were there. So
that's pretty insane. I could see why, Jeff was inclined to this is what we wanted.
And I'm like, what's he seeing?
So now that you've kind of been around for a while, what have you seen feedback wise on, people are submitting offers on these deals and now they're going and selling it? So on the back end, how accurate are your numbers coming out from the investors who've bought these deals and the ARVs and all that?
Great question. So the reason we shifted from the big projects to this lower tier market is because it's a lot more predictable. So the higher end stuff, it was hit or miss all the time. Like I shared with you guys earlier, before we went on, out of 10 clients doing $1 million plus project, 8 or 9 failed. And we're like, why? So we started digging in. Well, because of construction or because of design or
somebody who's paying $1.6 million for a house has a very specific taste on what they want.
Yeah, so our ARVs were all over the place. So
if you do the wrong finishes, you're screwed.
You're toast. Yeah. Or you walk onto a block and there's 10 houses that are all hardy. They all look exactly the same, and the buyer's just gonna
at Roscoe Village.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. So the areas that we're focusing on are a lot easier to hit. So we've been told, and we have gone back and back tested because we want to know what our data is telling us. Our ARV is pretty conservative. So we're coming in lower 9 times out of 10, which is huge because we don't aim for the top of the market. We don't go for the most aggressive comp, and we don't believe in appreciation, not from a data perspective. We can't send you a deal and say, hey, all the comps are 250. You can get 275 because the market's hot. We can't make that decision for you.
No.
But if the comps are telling us 250, 260, and we're coming in at 245, we feel good about that. So our ARVs are pretty on point. Our rehab numbers are what need massaging because everybody's rehab number is different.
Yeah.
So if we come in at 55K, investor A is a contractor, gets it done for 50. Investor B subs everything out. He's at 60 to 65. Investor C, third-party GCs, he's at 80. So everybody's number is different. What we tell our clients is you're not buying when you click submit offer. You're asking yourself two questions. Based on the area and based on the numbers, would I do this deal if it falls in line, if everything falls in line? If the answer is yes and yes, click submit offer, don't think. That's where our integrity comes into play. If we're whipping garbage numbers out, you're going to bust out of every deal. And then eventually you're like, you guys are wasting my time, right? The integrity of the numbers is everything to us. So you click submit offer, you get a deal accepted. You have 5 business days for your attorney review and inspection period. When you go out there, one of 3 things is going to happen. Either you're going to walk through and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, you guys are right on point. Let's do it. Or, you know what, I need a reduction. I still like the deal, but you're off 15K or there's an issue with the deck or whatever, right? Ask for a reduction. So we'll go back and fight for a reduction. Or last, foundation shot or I just don't want it. It backs up to this or whatever, kill the deal, and then we kill the deal. But I tell our clients all the time, you'd rather be in a position that you have control and you can actually make a decision and go out there rather than just running through 30 houses a week just to be last in line every time. So
as far as your appraisers, how long have they been appraisers? And
so our lead has been with us for 8 years, and she's out of the city. Tom came on 4 months ago. I think he's been an appraiser for 5+ years, something like that. Okay. He was with some big firm before he came here.
I mean, it's and I guess what somebody would be asking themselves right now would be: is there a cost to do it, or do you just get paid on the commission side of things?
Yeah, good question. So it's twofold. Initially, we didn't charge. So now there's a monthly, and then we're the broker on everything on the buy side. Initially, we weren't charging, and we let everybody through the gates. And what we saw was we were getting deals locked up, and then, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
Or, I don't have a contractor. And we're like,
or they thought they could wholesale your deal or something.
Oh, gosh. You know how many people we kicked out just because of that? They're like, what do you mean? I'm a wholesaler. You can't wholesale something that's on. I know people will make that argument, but at the end of the day, it's our name on the line. So we're like, no, we work for the professional investor. So for the professional investor, there's a monthly. It's $295 a month. There's no setup fee. If you went online, it's $349 a month, and then there's a setup fee. It's month to month, so it's no long-term contract. We have guys that sign up. After a month, they get a few deals, and then they shut off until their projects are done, and then they come back. We have guys that are on year-round because they're always in acquisition mode. So it really depends on the client. And we represent on every purchase through the system. So it's not exclusive. If you have your own sources or wholesalers you deal with, that's your business. We're not going to get paid for that. But if you click submit offer, we're representing you on that buy. And on the back end, you could use whoever you want to resale on the resale.
Before we get into the questions part of the podcast here, what's your vision for it? Just going from state to state, or
really,
right now you're going to Florida, and what states are next? Just in case, because we have some listeners from California, we have some from New York, Indiana, and
I think we're in 7 or 8 countries too.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
No, right, that's up to
the Sun Belt's really easy for us because, we set out to do this and not intentionally. It's just where we're at. But Cook County's got some of the worst data out there. So we're having success in a market where the data is so shot. So we want to get into easier markets, hence Florida. Mm-hmm. There's no basements in Florida. You can't.
You got sinkholes though.
Yeah, sure. No problem. We'll underwrite for that. But I think, along the Sun Belt is probably where we want to stay, at least for the first several. So Atlanta, get into North Carolina, Tennessee, some of those markets. The goal, God willing, is to be like the Charles Schwab of real estate investing. There's really, to me, there's no E-Trade out there for real estate. There's a lot of software out there, like I won't name them, but the sites that are like, oh yeah, you just drop an address in and we'll underwrite it for you, or the system underwrites it and gives you an ARV and a rehab and all this stuff. Without the human element, if Zillow can't figure it out, we're not going to figure it out.
Right.
You know what I mean? You still need the human element. And our clients, that's one of the first questions they ask. It's like, yeah, we hear you got this software. I go, stop with the software. Like, we're an acquisition platform. We leverage the crap out of technology, but there's still a human looking at every single deal. And they're like, all right, it's worth it. Because at $8 a day to get 30 deals sent to you that somebody's looking, go find a VA. That's going to do that actually has 7,000 transactions behind them, you know.
To kind of piggyback on that a little bit, is there any other questions that you get asked frequently that we haven't asked yet? Maybe just because we're so in it?
Yeah. They'll ask about off-market all the time. Do you get off-market? We do. We have a few vetted wholesalers we work with. I say vetted because there's a lot of bad wholesalers out there. So we don't work with a ton of guys. We work with who we feel are better. I think the big mistake that people make, though, is they think so we have MLS properties that we source. We have off-market properties we source. We also work with the Cook County Land Bank. We're one of their biggest strategic partners. So those are all pre-listed Fannie Mae properties and Freddie Mac properties before they ever hit the market. So those are off-market REOs. But I think the big misconception out there is people are like, oh, well, I'm just going to do direct mail. Okay, how much you plan on spending? Like, what do you mean? I mean, the best wholesalers we work with spend $3,000 to $25,000 a month in marketing.
And not just once, every single month.
Every single month. And sometimes it's 4 to 5 months, of runway before they start seeing results.
Right, because most people wait until they usually have the 6 or 7 letters from the same guy.
Yeah, to see if they're real or not. And everybody's using these done-for-you services where they're just like, oh, they're going to do everything for me. And it's like, come on, man. If you need to work. So I guess we're to the point now where we don't get qualified from anybody. We qualify them. I make it very clear because we get investors call us and they're like, well, I got all these questions. I'm like, stop. I got questions for you because at $8 a day, we lose, not you. At $8 a day, if you submit 30 offers a day and never do a deal, it's not worth it for us to do that at $8 a day. So my questions are, how is your financing structured? Do you have construction in place? Have you done at least 3 deals in the last 12 months? Because if you haven't, then we need to hold your hand through the process, and it's not worth it for us. It just isn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're probably going to back out the first deal
10 times, and then our reps on the line and all that, and it's just, it's not worth it.
Okay. Matt, do you want to go? Did you have any other questions, or did you want to go into the?
No, yeah, we can go into the questions.
Okay. So this is just like random questions, just whatever comes up to your hand. Not too random though.
What's one thing you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
Wow. Ask it again. Oh my goodness.
What's one thing that you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
We're just talking about real estate here. That there's still deals on the MLS. Every single day. I mean, one of our top clients, 80% of what he's doing is off the MLS, and he's been doing this for a long time.
You might have just went over this, but
our 6 last deals are from the MLS.
Oh.
Yeah, but we gave the offers like on the first day it was active.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's super aggressive and competitive out there, but there's deals.
Yeah. Have you ever turned down a client, and why?
We were at our coffee talk this morning. Me and my partner were actually considering firing a client today. But yeah, we've turned clients down all the time. Experience is a big factor. The other thing is respect and integrity. We're a team here, and if people are disrespectful to us, it's like, come on. Like, we're all grown-ups.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
To what do you attribute your success?
Faith, for sure. I mean,
since you've had so many employees, what is your best hiring tip or secret?
Don't hire on the first interview. There's this test called it's 1, 2, 3 personality test.
DISC?
Yep. Big believer in that. Wish I was doing that from day one because
no, go ahead.
Because the thing is, people, not everybody's wired the same, obviously. And what tends to happen is you hire people that you relate with. We've got it down to a science now. Like everybody here, like our appraisers are a certain setup. Our brokers are a certain setup. So if they don't check that box, we can't move past that.
Right. You really can't hire somebody who's not outgoing and, to do like sales work, or somebody who's way too outgoing and then you have him doing admin work.
Yeah, like we had a guy walk in for one of the appraiser positions, and I looked at his desk. I go, he's a salesman. He's not a...
And
he did a pretty good job trying to sell us on. We didn't hire him, but yeah.
How did you get your idea or concept for Clickinvest?
Through the pain, for sure. I mean, going through that whole process, knowing you've got something, but then it not working, I would say, and then Goldman Sachs going through that program. So I'm a big so I throw this at people all the time: ask better questions and seek wise counsel. So when I was going through when Invitation Homes stopped buying, I sought out wise counsel. So I enrolled myself in a program through Goldman Sachs for small business owners, and it was an 4 or 5 month program. And because I'm like, I know I've got something here, but I never learned how to run a business the right way or to build a business on the right foundation. So I went out and sought that counsel. So ask better questions and seek wise counsel. But yeah, so I guess I ask better questions. How can I take what we've learned and do it in a way that's profitable?
What was the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
Oh, goodness. High waters hide broken piers. Okay, so think about this. So high waters, right, hide the broken pier. Like when you go, the piers that hold, where the boats come up to. And the whole analogy was just make more money. So if you make more money, it's going to hide your problems, your inefficiencies and all that stuff. Wrong. Fix the pier, then wait for the water to rise, because at some point when that water does come down or pull back a little bit, those broken piers are going to cripple your business.
Well, what do you wish you knew before you started?
Wow. I'm kind of glad I didn't know.
Exactly. That's exactly what Andrew Holmes said.
Yeah.
It's like,
I wouldn't have done it.
If I knew how hard it was going to be, I would have never done it.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Same here.
Do you have a morning routine?
Yes.
What is it?
When I'm good. There's times I'm bad, but usually I wake up, have some quiet time or prayer time, read a little bit, and then on my good mornings, I'll get to the gym. If I don't get to the gym in the morning, I try to hit it by sometime in the afternoon.
How do you stay motivated?
Look at my wife and kids.
If you had one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
There's this, that's a great question, because a lot of times people say, go out and fail a bunch. I don't agree with that. Failing sucks, man.
Right.
I would spend more time. I told a client this recently. I didn't think they were in a position to get started. And I said, I'd rather you stop and go out and spend time in these meetups or spend time learning the business and then come back. Everybody thinks they got to get a deal today. Just stop. You don't. And that was my problem. I thought I had to build a real estate empire in 6 months. The guys that win at this game, it's a long-term deal. So one, really determine if you want to do this, because it's the whole overnight success. I've not met anybody in 15 years of doing this that's an overnight success. I've met a lot of overnight failures. So really determine what you want to do, and then ask yourself if you're willing to put in the time and the energy and the sacrifices to get there, because it's going to take probably 5 times as long as you thought it was going to take.
Well, what's that saying? People overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years?
1,000%, yeah. So, what was the question again? It's one of those.
If you had one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
Seek wisdom. Go to people that have done it And then be honest. Stop with this fake it till you make it. Oh my gosh. I walk in a room and I'm like, how many guys are real estate investors? And everybody raises their hand. I go, how many guys have done at least 2 deals in the last year? And then all the hands come down. I'm like, you're not a real estate investor. And it's okay. Like, just be honest. If you're honest and you're seeking wise counsel, people will help you. If you're like, anytime somebody puffs their chest, I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it. We can't work with you.
Yeah. Just be honest. Do you have a favorite failure out of all your failures? Is the one that set
Out of
you
all
up?
my failures, I've got so many of them.
Is there one to set you up for future success?
Yeah, I think when I was at the Merc, when I was at my worst, for sure. And I guess if I can give somebody a little bit of a hope out there, it's sometimes when, you've heard it said, it's darkest before the dawn. Sometimes when you're in your deepest deep or your lowest low is where that breakthrough is going to happen. For me, obviously, it was spirituality and it was God and all that. But don't give up. Like when you're at that point where you want to give up is where you have to just stick with it and keep pushing.
What habits helped make you successful?
Routines, for sure. The morning routine. Like, I know when I'm on it. If I'm consistent with my morning routine, I'm going. I'm a creature of habit, and I'm a wild card. So if it's like a budget, if I don't create that lane for me to stay in, I'm a mess, man. So morning routine's a really big deal. And then I would say getting wise counsel, staying pretty consistent with that. And I'd have to say over the last 7 years, I've been pretty decent at that. The coaches have come and gone. Different mentors have come and gone, but I've constantly been seeking mentors out.
And last one, what's a piece of advice that you received recently and that you still follow?
Ask better questions. A lot of us get sucked into this why, or asking why all the time. Why me? Why? If you ask why, you're going to get an answer, and it's usually the wrong answer. It's because you're stupid. I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's because you're stupid, or because you're this, or because you're that. So instead of why, ask how, and ask what. How do I get through this situation, or what can I do to get through it?
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Before we end up here, where can people find you and Clickinvest, your company?
Email is best. So it's Rosario at clickinvest.com. So ROSARIO at clickinvest.com. Or you can go to clickinvest.com and then you can still find me through there. There's a phone number on there too. Or you can call me. Can I give my cell phone?
If you want.
It's not up to us.
708. Yeah. No, I won't do it. No. 708-369-3151. 708-369-3151.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, man, for doing this. Really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you, guys. This was a blessing, so I appreciate it. And I'm honored. I've been watching you guys. So.
Thanks, man.
Till next time, guys.
Thanks.
And that's it for another episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing before you head off, though. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us your thoughts on iTunes. It would really mean a lot and help us reach more people. You can also find us on Facebook at Profits Over Wages Podcast, as well as on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.